The silence on the bridge of the steadfast resolve was a heavy cloak, woven from the chilling pronouncement that echoed through the sector. Across the main view screen, the holographic projection of a Xylosian dreadnought, immense and menacing, pulsated with a cold blue light. Its angular, predatory design spoke of a civilization that had perfected the art of dominance over millennia. Supreme Commander Zarthus, a being of segmented chitin and multifaceted eyes, had delivered the ultimatum with an air of unassailable authority. Surrender the resource-rich frontier worlds or witness their utter destruction. 72 hours. An impossible timeline for evacuation, a calculated gesture of contempt. Admiral Lena Petrova stood at the command nexus, her posture ramrod straight, a stark contrast to the nervous energy that hummed through the deck. Her gray eyes, sharp and intelligent, scanned the data streams flowing across her personal console. She was not a warrior of brawn but of mind, a strategist whose reputation for unconventional thinking bordered on legend, at least within human space. The Xylosians, however, dismissed such nuances. To them, humanity was a fledgling species, recently admitted to the galactic Concord, possessing technology considered rudimentary and a military doctrine perceived as chaotic. A small, high-pitched whirring sound broke the stillness as a communication channel opened. The ethereal, shimmering form of High Chancellor Lyra of the Vesperian Enclave materialized, her iridescent wings drooping, her normally melodious voice filled with a tremor of fear. She represented the combined wisdom of the Concord, an alliance of elder species who had long maintained galactic peace through strict adherence to treaties and a collective, if sometimes timid, defense. But against the Xylosian dominion, an empire that had never known true military defeat, the Concord was paralyzed. Admiral Petrova, Lyra's voice chimed. Though devoid of its usual resonance, the Concord has made its decision. Lena's gaze remained steady, betraying no emotion. She knew the verdict before it was uttered. The galactic community's fear of the Xylosians was a palpable thing, a shadow that had stretched across the stars for eons. The Dominion, with its vast fleets and ancient, unyielding combat protocols, was simply too formidable. No species had ever successfully challenged their might. Empires had been extinguished for far less than an insult to Xylosian pride. They voted to abandon us, Lena stated, her voice calm, a quiet certainty that cut through the bridge's tension. It was not a question. Lyra's form seemed to shimmer in agreement. To risk war with the Dominion for a newly arrived species, it was deemed illogical. A sacrifice, Admiral, for the greater stability of the galaxy. Her voice cracked on the final word, a rare display of raw anguish from a being usually stoic. They believe humanity is expendable. The words hung in the air, a chilling echo of humanity's isolation. Captain Kalen Vance, standing a pace behind Lena, clenched his jaw. Vance was the operational heart of the steadfast resolve, a pilot-turned-commander, known for his audacious maneuvers and an uncanny ability to read the flow of battle. His eyes, usually alight with a mischievous spark, were now hardened with resolve. He imagined the billions on the frontier worlds, their homes, their dreams, now marked for annihilation. Impossible, Vance murmured, his voice low, almost a growl. They expect us to just let it happen. Lena turned from the main screen, her gaze sweeping over her crew. Engineers hunched over consoles, tactical officers monitoring distant Xylosian fleet movements, navigators plotting theoretical escape routes that were, in truth, dead ends. Fear was a current, but beneath it, a deeper, stronger tide of defiance pulsed. They expect us to break, Lena clarified, her voice gaining a steely edge. They expect us to despair, to flee, to scatter. To confirm their long-held belief that we are weak, disorganized, and ultimately irrelevant. The Xylosian Dominion's history was steeped in conquest. Their military strategy was an ancient, rigid doctrine, refined over thousands of years of absolute victory. Their fleets moved as one, perfect geometric formations, each ship a cog in an unyielding machine. They fought with an almost religious adherence to established protocols, believing chaos was weakness, and improvisation a sign of desperation. Humanity, with its history of adapting to extreme environments, of finding opportunity in adversity, of turning the improbable into the inevitable, was an unknown variable they had chosen to ignore. "What about Project Chimera, Admiral?" Vance asked quietly, using the codename for a deeply classified initiative. It was a question that only a handful of individuals knew how to even phrase. Lena allowed a faint, almost imperceptible smile to touch her lips. "Project Chimera is ready, Captain. Dr. Thorne has informed me that the adaptive combat systems are fully integrated and awaiting activation." Dr. Aris Thorne, the reclusive genius behind much of humanity's truly cutting-edge military advancements, was a name spoken in whispers, often accompanied by tales of strange experiments and breakthroughs that defied conventional understanding. He wasn't a soldier, but his mind was a weapon of unparalleled potency. For decades, while the rest of the galaxy watched humanity struggle with what appeared to be older, less efficient technologies, Thorne and his team had been building the true future of human warfare. The steadfast resolve itself was a testament to this deception. On the outside, its hull bore the hallmarks of a sturdy, though unspectacular, third-generation heavy cruiser. It looked capable, certainly, but nothing that would worry a Xylosian dreadnought. But beneath its seemingly conventional plating, layers of advanced stealth materials, variable geometry weapon conduits, and an energy signature cloaking system lay dormant. This was not a ship built for a fair fight. It was built for a fight that redefined fairness. "They believe our ships are slow, cumbersome," Lena continued, her voice low, almost meditative. "They believe our tactical formations are unrefined, our command structures too flexible. They see our history of barbaric ground wars on a harsh world, and assume it translates to lack of discipline in space." Vance nodded. He understood. Humanity's approach to conflict was often perceived as erratic by rigid alien militaries. They had always valued adaptability over strict adherence to doctrine, ingenuity over brute force, the individual over the collective, even within a fighting unit. They had always found a way, often by breaking every rule in the book. "They've studied us for decades, Admiral," Vance pointed out. "Their intelligence networks are vast. They know our ship classes, our weapon yields, our basic strategic movements." "They know what we let them see," Lena corrected, a flicker of something akin to quiet amusement in her eyes. "For generations, we have been the quiet, unassuming neighbor. The one dismissed as quaint or primitive, a species too focused on internal squabbles to truly pose a threat. It was a deliberate strategy, a long game." A faint, almost imperceptible tremor ran through the steadfast resolve. The ship was beginning its final readiness sequence. Below decks, the hum of power conduits intensified. Lights flickered momentarily, then stabilized with a deeper, more resonant glow. This was not the standard pre-jump diagnostic. This was an awakening. On the main screen, the chilling image of Supreme Commander Zarthus reappeared. This time, his message was broadcast galaxy-wide, an intimidating display of Xylosian might. His multifaceted eyes seemed to bore through the screen, reflecting the cold, hard vacuum of space. "Lesser species of the Concorde," Zarthus's voice resonated, a deep, guttural rumble that seemed to shake the very deck plates. "Observe the fate of the Terran primitives. In 72 standard hours, their frontier worlds will be purged, their presence erased from the galactic record. This is a demonstration of the Dominion's immutable will, a warning to all who contemplate defiance. The age of chaos ends. Order, Xylosian order, will prevail." The transmission concluded, leaving behind a profound silence across the galaxies, save for the terrified chatter of the other Concorde species, their ships already scattering, their governments frantically issuing pleas of non-involvement. But on the steadfast resolve, the silence was different. It was a pre-battle calm, filled with a nascent power. Admiral Vance said, a wolfish grin slowly spreading across his face, a look of fierce anticipation replacing his earlier grimness. Permission to activate Protocol Chimera Alpha. Full system integration. Let's show them what primitives can truly do. Lena Petrova's expression was one of quiet triumph. Permission granted, Captain. Let the galaxy witness. It's time for a history lesson. Below the surface of the frontier worlds, deep within hardened bunkers, Sergeant Jax Breaker Riley watched the same broadcast. His grizzled face, scared of 100 training exercises in extreme environmental simulations, was grim. His command was comprised of human ground forces, a mix of seasoned veterans and young, fiercely determined recruits. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and supposedly facing an unstoppable, perfectly disciplined Xylosian invasion force. Yet no fear touched Riley's eyes, only a simmering, controlled rage. Breaker to all units, Riley's voice rasped over the comms, his tone rough but steady. You heard the bug-eyed creatures. 72 hours. They think we're just going to roll over. They think their perfect formations and fancy energy shields are going to win the day. A wave of replies, a chorus of determined acknowledgments, washed back. These were harsh worlders, born of worlds that demanded resilience, ingenuity, and a stubborn refusal to yield. Their ancestors had carved civilizations out of rock, tamed hostile ecosystems, and faced existential threats with nothing but their minds and their collective will. The Xylosians had never encountered a foe like them. They've never fought humans who defend their homes, Riley continued, his voice gaining power. They've never fought people who have turned every rock, every shadow, every broken piece of tech into a weapon. They think they've studied us. They think they know how we fight. They're about to learn that humanity doesn't fight by the rules. We make our own rules. We broke theirs. He tapped a holographic map, highlighting intricate networks of tunnels, hidden weapon caches, and pre-programmed defensive zones that riddled the frontier worlds. These were not just cities or resource extraction sites. They were meticulously crafted traps, designed over years, waiting for this precise moment. We will show them the true meaning of resistance, Riley declared, his voice ringing with conviction. We will show them that a species that has faced every environmental challenge, every hardship, every impossible situation isn't just strong. It's unbreakable. Back on the steadfast resolve, a low thrum vibrated through the ship, growing steadily in intensity. The main view screen, which had displayed the Xylosian threat, now shifted to a celestial chart. The vast, empty space between humanity's core worlds and the encroaching Xylosian fleet was highlighted. This was the arena. Tactical Officer Lyra Chen, her fingers flying across her console with practiced ease, confirmed weapon and shield readouts. Adaptive energy conduits are cycling, Admiral. Quantum entanglement comes online. The HAC's core is stabilizing, ship integrity holding at 100%. These were not the terms the Xylosians understood. Adaptive energy conduits meant weapons that could shift their output frequency in milliseconds, bypassing known shield harmonics. Quantum entanglement comms meant instantaneous, encrypted communication across vast distances, undetectable by conventional alien sensors, allowing for coordinated chaos. HAC's core meant an AI system that learned and adapted to enemy tactics in real time, predicting and countering threats before they even manifested. Estimated time to engage? Lena asked, her voice calm, a conductor readying her orchestra. Interception point calculated in T-minus 12 hours, Admiral Lyra replied, her tone professional, though a faint hint of excitement colored her voice. The Xylosian vanguard is pushing hard. They are confident. "Let them be confident," Lena said, a flicker of a genuine smile gracing her lips. It was a smile utterly devoid of fear, filled instead with the thrilling anticipation of what was to come. Their confidence is their greatest vulnerability. "Captain Vance, prepare the fleet for jump. Disseminate Protocol Chimera Alpha to all participating vessels. Ensure their external signatures remain conventional for as long as possible. We want them to believe they are fighting the same enemy they've always defeated." Vance nodded sharply, his hand already moving to the jump control interface. "Understood, Admiral. Deception protocol active." Across the human defense fleet, ships that had been dismissed as outdated or underpowered began to power up hidden systems. The Vanguard, a seemingly basic patrol cruiser, extended subtle, nearly invisible sensor arrays. The Ironclad, a bulky transport, revealed a modular weapon bay beneath its cargo holds. Each vessel, from the smallest scout to the largest capital ship, held a secret. For decades, humanity had played the part of the junior partner, the naive newcomer. They had observed, learned, and waited. Now, the curtain was about to rise. The steadfast resolve shuddered gently, a deep, resonant hum building beneath its decks. The stars outside stretched and blurred, coalescing into streaks of light as the ship prepared for a hyperspace jump. Around it, other human vessels, seemingly a motley collection of an underfunded fleet, followed suit. They were not moving in the rigid, predictable formations of the Xylosians, but in a loose, seemingly disorganized cluster. An alien observer would have deemed it amateurish, a fatal error. But this was no error. It was the first act in a symphony of strategic misdirection. As the steadfast resolve vanished into the shimmering veil of hyperspace, Lena Petrova gazed at the empty space where the Xylosian fleet was rapidly approaching. Her mind already raced through 1,000 tactical possibilities, a million permutations of chaos and calculated brilliance. They thought they were hunting prey. They were about to discover they had awakened a storm. This was not merely a battle for survival. This was the moment humanity would redefine war. It was the moment they would prove, without a shadow of a doubt, their true military supremacy. And the galaxy, held captive by fear and outdated doctrines, was about to be shaken to its very core. Thank you for watching part 1 of the moment humans proved their military supremacy. If you enjoyed this glimpse into humanity's hidden power, please consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel for more epic HFY stories. What do you think will happen when the Xylosian Dominion finally faces humanity's true might? Let us know in the comments below and tell us where you're tuning in. The steadfast resolve plunged into the shimmering veil of hyperspace, the stars smearing into iridescent ribbons of light. The journey, though brief by galactic standards, felt eternal to the human crew. Each passing moment was a beat of a drum counting down to humanity's most crucial confrontation. The ship's hum, no longer the gentle thrum of a cruiser at peace, vibrated with a deeper, almost sentient pulse. This was the awakening of Protocol Chimera, a symphony of hidden power beginning its crescendo. On the bridge, Admiral Lena Petrova stood with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the warp tunnel on the main view screen. Her calm exterior masked a mind in overdrive, orchestrating contingencies for 1,000 different scenarios. Captain Kalen Vance, ever the intuitive pilot, felt the subtle shifts in the ship's gravitic plating, the almost imperceptible changes in its energy signature. The steadfast resolve was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and the flock was approaching. They emerged from hyperspace with a violent shudder, the familiar starfield snapping back into focus. Around them, the rest of the human defense fleet materialized, a motley assortment of vessels that, to an outside observer, still appeared unassuming. There was the bulky Ironclad, looking like a freighter, and the sleek Vanguard, resembling a simple patrol cruiser. Even the steadfast Resolve maintained its illusion of a moderately armed heavy cruiser. They drifted in a loose cluster, seemingly unorganized, exactly as the Xylosians would expect. Almost immediately, Xylosian scout vessels, sharp and aggressive, darted across their forward sensors. They were smaller, faster, and utterly confident. Their initial hails were arrogant demands for surrender, laced with condescending remarks about humanity's disorderly formations. Admiral Lyra Chen, the tactical officer, reported Xylosian Vanguard detected, multiple scout crafts and 3 standard destroyers. They are initiating primary attack sequence Alpha 7. Estimated time to engage, 2 minutes. Their comms is open, broadcasting standard intimidation frequencies. Lena's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. Let them broadcast. Captain Vance maintains conventional signatures. Evasion protocols Delta 5. Vance nodded, his fingers dancing over the controls. The steadfast Resolve and its accompanying fleet began to move, not in rigid, coordinated lines, but in what appeared to be a series of erratic, almost clumsy evasive maneuvers. The Xylosian scouts, observing this, transmitted derisive chitters across their networks. This was precisely what they expected from a primitive species: predictable panic, unrefined piloting. The first volley of Xylosian plasma lances tore through the void. They were massive, emerald bolts of superheated energy, designed to overwhelm kinetic shields. The human ships, instead of attempting to absorb the blows head-on, performed a series of sudden, seemingly random micro-jumps and sharp vector changes. Some lances passed harmlessly through empty space where a human ship had been moments before. Others merely grazed shields that flared brightly, absorbing the impact, but revealing no critical weakness. This is highly inefficient. Supreme Commander Zarthus's voice resonated across the Xylosian main battle screen, relaying a report from his vanguard. The Terrans are wasting energy with their frantic movements. Their lack of disciplined formation will be their downfall. Maintain standard attack patterns, crush them. But even as Zarthus spoke, his tactical officers began to note faint anomalies. A human patrol cruiser, the Vanguard, executed a turn at a vector that defied its perceived mass. A weapon burst from the ironclad seemed to shift its energy frequency mid-flight, briefly overloading a Xylosian scout's shield before the scout managed to compensate. They were minor, dismissed as flukes, but they were the first tremors of a brewing storm. On the ground, in the labyrinthine tunnels and fortified urban landscapes of Frontier World Zeta 3, Sergeant Jax Breaker wryly surveyed the real-time feed from his scout drones. Xylosian drop pods, immense and armored, descended through the atmosphere like predatory meteors, their landing zones precise, their subsequent troop deployments rigidly methodical. Breaker to all forward observation posts, wryly barked into his comms. Pods are inbound. Remember the drills. Don't engage directly, guide them into the choke points. Let them follow their protocols, we'll follow ours. The Xylosian ground forces were a fearsome sight. Heavily armored, multi-limbed, they moved in perfect phalanxes, their pulse weapons glowing with malevolent energy. Their doctrine dictated overwhelming force, direct assault, and swift, decisive victory. They expected a conventional defense, dug-in lines, perhaps a few desperate charges. They met with silence. As the Xylosian advance teams moved through the outer perimeter of a ruined residential district, they found no resistance. Their thermal sensors registered no large human concentrations. This was curious, but consistent with a species on the brink of collapse. Then, an unexpected explosion ripped through a seemingly innocuous fountain, sending shrapnel and superheated water through the lead Xylosian platoon. It wasn't a standard bomb. It was a water main, expertly rigged with a chemical accelerant. Another, smaller blast erupted from a discarded data terminal booth, spraying razor-sharp circuit boards. A Xylosian heavy trooper stumbled, its optical sensors shredded. This was not organized resistance. This was random, primitive, but effective. In space, the Xylosian main fleet arrived, a breathtaking armada of dreadnoughts, cruisers, and destroyers, stretching across the void like a colossal, predatory beast. Their formations were impeccable, their power signatures immense. They dwarfed the human fleet. Admiral Petrova, Lyra Chen's voice was tense, the vastness of the Xylosian fleet unnerving even to seasoned veterans. Their main guns are charging. This is their full assault. Now, Captain Vance, Lena commanded, her voice cutting through the tension. Activate Chimera Beta. Full HAX integration. Show them the true face of human improvisation. A low, resonant thrum vibrated through the steadfast resolve, a deeper hum than before. Hidden panels on the ship's hull slid open, revealing weapon conduits that seemed to shift and reconfigure their geometry. The ironclad, previously a lumbering transport, now revealed multi-barreled energy emitters along its flanks, their output already cycling through an impossible array of frequencies. The Vanguard's seemingly benign sensor arrays extended, not as simple antennae, but as complex, multimodal projectors, shimmering with cloaked energy. The Xylosian fleet unleashed its primary attack. 1,000 energy lances, 100 volleys of kinetic projectiles streaked towards the human ships. It was an apocalyptic display of power. But this time, the human vessels did not merely evade. They danced. Guided by the HAX core, which predicted Xylosian firing solutions with chilling accuracy, human ships performed a series of synchronized, non-linear maneuvers. They swerved, spun, and dove, not like a squadron, but like a school of hyper-aware fish. The Xylosian targeting systems, designed to track predictable, linear movements, struggled to lock on. This is illogical. Commander Vexler, a Xylosian tactical officer aboard Supreme Commander Zarthus's flagship, chittered in confusion. Their movements have no discernible pattern. Our targeting algorithms are failing to compensate. Their weapons, too, began to confound the Xylosians. The steadfast resolve fired its main cannons, not with a single massive blast, but a rapid-fire succession of energy pulses, each modulated to a different frequency. The Xylosian shields, designed to absorb and diffuse fixed-frequency energy weapons, buckled under the unpredictable assault. A Xylosian destroyer's shield flickered, then collapsed, its hull seared by a volley it couldn't block. Unacceptable, Zarthus roared, his segmented chitin vibrating with fury. These primitives possess no such technology. Their weaponry is rudimentary. On the ground, Sergeant Riley's forces were proving just as confounding. Xylosian General Cathar, commanding the ground invasion, stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. His perfectly disciplined phalanxes were being picked apart. A Xylosian heavy transport was disabled when its grav plates collapsed into a pre-dug pit covered by illusory camouflage. A platoon of elite assault troopers vanished into a cloud of dense, disorienting smoke, their thermal sensors useless against its unique composition. They are using the very environment as a weapon. Cathar bellowed, his voice laced with confusion. This is not warfare. This is chaos. Humans, concealed in the ruins of collapsed buildings, beneath layers of debris, and within hidden tunnels, struck with swift, brutal precision. They used demolition charges crafted from salvaged mining equipment, pressure-activated traps made from repurposed industrial components, and even local fauna agitated and herded into Xylosian lines, creating diversions. These extreme environment adaptives, born of a harsh world, understood how to turn the landscape itself into a killing field. On the steadfast resolve, Lena Petrova watched the Xylosian tactical officers' bewildered reports flicker across the intercepted comms. Their rigid minds simply could not comprehend the fluidity of human adaptation. It wasn't just the technology, it was the mindset behind it. Lyra Chen's voice was triumphant. Admiral, Xylosian primary attack formation is breaking. Their dreadnoughts are struggling to maintain cohesion. The hack's core is identifying their command ship's blind spots. Vance's grin was back, wide and feral. They're predictable, Lena. Every single one of their grand maneuvers is a textbook case. Target their command dreadnought, Lena ordered, her voice low and steady. Not with a direct assault, with a feint. We don't want to destroy it yet, we want to demonstrate control. The steadfast resolve detached from the main human cluster, seeming to break formation entirely. It made a wide, seemingly reckless arc, drawing the attention of multiple Xylosian cruisers. These ships, adhering to their combat protocols, revectored to intercept. It was exactly what Lena wanted. As they committed, the steadfast resolve executed a series of impossible maneuvers. Its engines flared with previously unseen power, and its variable geometry thrusters shifted, allowing for turns at speeds that defied conventional physics. The Xylosian cruisers overshot, leaving a gaping hole in their formation. Through the breach surged the Ironclad and Vanguard, no longer looking like transports or patrol vessels. Their hidden weapon bays were fully deployed, glowing with harnessed energy. They unleashed a focused, multi-frequency volley directly into the exposed flank of the Xylosian dreadnought they had been targeting. The Xylosian dreadnought, a behemoth that had never known a scratch in 1,000 battles, screamed its alarm. Its shields, designed to deflect massive, singular attacks, were overwhelmed by the barrage of rapidly shifting frequencies. A section of its colossal hull, previously considered impregnable, glowed red-hot, then melted, revealing internal conduits. It wasn't a fatal blow, but it was a deep, humiliating wound. Supreme Commander Xarthus's multifaceted eyes widened in horror. His grand, invincible fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was being outmaneuvered, outwitted, and damaged by a species he had dismissed as primitive. This was not a battle. This was a violation of all known military logic. How? Xarthus shrieked, his voice uncharacteristically high-pitched with pure, unadulterated shock. How are they doing this? Their movements are impossible. Their weapons, they shift. On the frontier world, General Cathar slammed a multi-limbed fist onto his command console. His forces were bogged down, suffering casualties from unseen enemies, frustrated by a foe that refused to fight properly. His perfectly trained soldiers were becoming disorganized, their morale plummeting as they realized their rigid tactics were useless against an enemy that fought like a shapeless, vengeful force of nature. The Xylosian dreadnought, wounded but still immense, began to realign its main weapon, a planet breaker capable of glassing entire continents. It was aiming not at a human ship, but at the frontier world itself. A cold, desperate fury filled Xarthus's voice. If they could not win the battle, they would ensure there was no world left to save. Admiral Lyra Chen cried out that Dreadnought is targeting Zeta 3. Power signature is building. Time to full discharge, 90 seconds. Lena Petrova's expression remained grim, but her eyes held a fierce light. So they resort to barbarism. Vance, prepare for Protocol Chimera Gamma. It's time they understood the meaning of tactical supremacy. The steadfast resolve veered sharply, not towards the dreadnought, but towards a massive, uninhabited gas giant on the edge of the battlefield. It began to power up systems Lena had held in reserve, systems so potent, so disruptive, they had been considered too risky for anything but absolute last resorts. The Xylosian dreadnought's weapon charge grew, a sphere of incandescent destruction blossoming at its maw, aimed squarely at the human colony. The fate of millions hung in the balance, a planet's destruction imminent. Could humanity, even with its newfound, bewildering capabilities, stop a Xylosian planet breaker in time? Don't miss a single second of this epic showdown. If you're thrilled by humanity's fight for survival and want to see what happens next with Lena, Vance, and Riley, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Did you know the human hack's core can process a quadrillion tactical permutations per second? Imagine what that means for the Xylosians. See you in Part 3. The Xylosian Dreadnought, a leviathan of etched metal and malevolent intent, pulsed with an ominous emerald glow. Its primary planet-breaker weapon, a sphere of compressed, incandescent energy, expanded rapidly at its maw, aimed with horrifying precision at frontier world Zeta 3. On the steadfast resolve, the countdown to planetary immolation echoed through the bridge, each tick of the timer a hammer blow against the collective heart of humanity. 90 seconds. A planet of millions, vibrant and bustling, was about to be reduced to orbiting debris. Admiral Lena Petrova's voice, though sharp with urgency, remained steady. Vance, initiate protocol Chimera Gamma. Full power to gravitic distortion emitters. Target, the core of the gas giant, 10 degrees starboard of the Dreadnought's trajectory. We aren't deflecting it. We're bending space itself. Captain Kalen Vance, his eyes alight with grim determination, slammed his hand onto a control. The steadfast resolve shuddered violently as previously dormant systems roared to life. Along its flanks, previously unseen conduits opened, emitting faint, shimmering fields that distorted the light around them. The ship was no longer just absorbing energy, it was manipulating the very fabric of reality. This is unprecedented. Lyra Chen, the tactical officer, breathed, her fingers flying across her console. Energy consumption spiking off the charts. We're pushing structural integrity to critical levels, Admiral. Lena ignored her. Push harder, Lyra. Zeta 3 depends on it. The massive Xylosian Dreadnought, now a beacon of impending destruction, unleashed its weapon. The emerald sphere of pure annihilation, a contained star, surged forth, a silent scream of power tearing through the void towards the unsuspecting world. But as the colossal energy bolt passed the gas giant, something impossible happened. The shimmer around the steadfast resolve intensified, radiating outwards, subtly distorting the space between the Dreadnought's weapon and its target. The gas giant, its immense gravitational pull now amplified and precisely focused by human technology, became a cosmic lens. The planet-killer weapon, a force designed for linear destruction, began to bend. Its trajectory shifted, imperceptibly at first, then more dramatically, arcing away from Zeta 3. It didn't dissipate, it didn't explode. It simply curved. On Supreme Commander Zarthus's flagship, Commander Vexler shrieked in utter disbelief. "Sir, the planet breaker, its trajectory is impossible. It's arcing, it's missing the target." Zarthus's multifaceted eyes expanded in horror. His most devastating weapon, the symbol of Xylosian dominance, had been rendered inert, not by direct interception, but by some incomprehensible manipulation of space. The emerald bolt, now a terrifyingly beautiful light show, continued its curved path until it eventually dissipated harmlessly into the dark, empty reaches of the sector, a monument to a failure no Xylosian had ever conceived. This defies all known physics, Zarthus roared, his segmented chitin rattling. They did not stop it, they rerouted it. How? On the steadfast resolve, Lena Petrova allowed herself a small, weary smile. Vance, withdraw gravitic emitters. Lyra, report on Xylosian response. The steadfast resolve returned to its normal, unassuming energy signature, its hidden conduits retracting, leaving the Xylosians bewildered by what they had just witnessed. Admiral, Lyra reported, her voice laced with awe. Xylosian fleet cohesion is dissolving. Their command structure is chaos. They are transmitting distress signals across their networks. They have no protocol for this. This was the turning point. Not a single shot had been fired at the planet-breaker Dreadnought, yet humanity had unequivocally demonstrated a level of technological and tactical supremacy that shattered Xylosian doctrine. The battle was far from over, but the psychological blow was profound. On the ground, in the ravaged urban landscape of Zeta 3, Sergeant Jacksbreaker Riley watched the same events unfold on a crackling holographic display. The Xylosian ground forces, already bogged down by humanity's guerrilla tactics, witnessed the deflection of their planet-breaker weapon. A ripple of something akin to terror passed through their rigid ranks. "Breaker to all units," Riley's voice boomed, filled with raw triumph. "Did you see that, ladies and gentlemen? They thought they had us. They thought we'd roll over. But humans don't roll over, we adapt, we improvise, and we make them look like fools. Now push them, exploit their confusion." General Cathar, overseeing the ground invasion, was a picture of bewildered fury. His forces were being systematically dismantled by unseen, unconventional attacks. A Xylosian siege tank, its multi-layer armor designed to withstand orbital bombardment, suddenly found its treads fusing to the very street beneath it, trapped by a localized chemical reaction created from a repurposed industrial solvent. Xylosian snipers, perfectly positioned, found their optical sensors suddenly blind, coated by a rapidly hardening, bioluminescent foam deployed by hidden human units. "This is not honorable combat," Cathar shrieked, his multi-limbed fists tearing at his own console. "They use civilian structures, common chemicals, even the air itself as weapons. This is barbarism." Corporal Anya Sharma, a young, fierce recruit, smirked as she watched a Xylosian patrol stumble into a tripwire that released a cloud of sonic disorientant. "Barbarism? Huh!" she whispered to her squad. "They're about to learn what a harsh welder can do when you try to take their home." Anya's squad, equipped with light, versatile gear, moved like ghosts through the ruins, striking from unexpected angles, their movements fluid and unpredictable, a stark contrast to the Xylosians' rigid formations. They were fighting not just with weapons, but with wits, creativity, and an intimate knowledge of their environment. In space, the Xylosian main fleet, having witnessed the impossible, began to falter. Their meticulously maintained formations, the bedrock of their military doctrine, began to fray. Commander Vexler, now clearly panicked, reported to Zarthus. "Sir, multiple capital ships are reporting shield irregularities. Their weapons are unpredictable. They are shifting frequencies mid-burst. Our shield harmonics cannot compensate." Supreme Commander Zarthus's mind, accustomed to absolute control and predictable outcomes, reeled. His millennia of tactical knowledge offered no solution to this chaotic alien threat. He had studied humanity, had catalogued their perceived weaknesses, and had dismissed their adaptability as mere disorganization. Now, that very quality was ripping his fleet apart. Abandoned standard attack protocols, Zarthus roared, his voice laced with desperation. "All ships engage in the nearest human vessel, overwhelm them with sheer firepower, disperse formation, flood the zone." This was an order born of panic, a desperate gamble that went against every tenet of Xylosian military philosophy. Their rigid, precise formations were their strength. Without them, they were merely a collection of powerful but uncoordinated vessels. Admiral Lyra Chen reported, "Xylosian fleet is breaking formation. They are swarming. It's unlike anything they've ever done." Lena Petrova watched Zarthus's desperate gambling with a cold, calculating gaze. "They think chaos is their new weapon," she thought. "They have no idea what true chaos is, not until they face us." "Vance," Lena commanded, her voice ringing with renewed confidence. "Activate Chimera Delta. Full fleet synchronization. Show them the battle ballet." Across the human defense fleet, ships that had been moving in seemingly random patterns suddenly snapped into a breathtaking display of synchronized, fluid motion. Guided by the Hax Corps, now operating at peak efficiency, the vessels moved like a single, multifaceted organism. They spun in unison, their weapon ports unleashing barrages that danced through the Xylosian swarm, hitting vulnerable points that only moments before had been obscured by the chaos. The Vanguard, once a simple patrol cruiser, deployed a flurry of micro-drones that zipped through the Xylosian swarm, emitting targeted EMP pulses that disrupted their internal comms. The ironclad, still disguised as a freighter, spun on its axis, unleashing a devastating broadside of hyperfrequency energy pulses that bypassed the weakened shields of a Xylosian cruiser, crippling its drive core. Their own chaos became their undoing. The Xylosian ships, now operating without their strict protocols, collided with each other, their targeting systems flailing as they tried to engage a foe that moved with impossible grace and deadly precision. The space battle, once a rigid chessboard, had become a dynamic, three-dimensional dance of death, and humanity was leading. On the ground, Sergeant Riley's forces exploited Cathar's disintegrating command structure. Human infiltrators, utilizing advanced active camouflage technology woven into their standard gear, slipped behind Xylosian lines, turning their own fortified positions into death traps. Improvised explosive devices, crafted from a fusion of local mineral deposits and repurposed Xylosian energy cells, detonated under armored vehicles. Sniper teams, using portable grav cannons to launch rubble at supersonic speeds, targeted the segmented joints of Xylosian heavy troopers, exploiting the weaknesses in their otherwise impervious armor. General Cathar's tactical map was a nightmare of red alerts and lost contacts. His elite units, trained for millennia in direct, overwhelming assault, were being outmaneuvered, outsmarted, and eliminated by what they considered primitive infantry. They were fighting a phantom, a foe that appeared, struck, and vanished. This is psychological warfare. Cathar bellowed, his voice raw with frustration. They are breaking our morale. Anya Sharma, watching a feed from one of her cloaked drones, simply smiled. Not psychological warfare, General. That's just being human. The news of the Xylosian fleet's unraveling reached the Galactic Concord Station, where High Chancellor Lyra and the other delegates watched the battle feed in stunned silence. The Xylosians, once the unassailable titans of the galaxy, were being decimated. "This is incredible," the Vesperian High Chancellor whispered, her iridescent wings trembling, not from fear, but from profound shock. "The Terrans, they are winning. They are not merely holding the line, they are dominating." A Centauri delegate, his normally placid face contorted in disbelief, stuttered their technology. It was supposed to be inferior. Their tactics, unrefined. Ambassador T. Laura, humanity's stoic representative to the Concord, watched with quiet pride. "You mistook adaptability for disorganization. You mistook ingenuity for backwardness. Humanity does not merely fight, it evolves with every challenge." Back in the void, Supreme Commander Zarthus's flagship was besieged. Human vessels, moving in perfectly choreographed strikes, were exploiting every weakness, every tactical blunder. Zarthus's rigid mind, honed by an empire built on unyielding protocols, could not comprehend the sheer unpredictability of his foe. "Sir," Vexler reported, his voice devoid of its usual arrogance, "our shields are failing. Their attacks, they target our internal resonance frequencies. We have no defense." Zarthus watched in horror as a human-heavy cruiser, the Steadfast, resolve itself, executed a dizzying spin, its weapon ports blazing with an impossible array of energy pulses. The flagship's main bridge shield, thought unbreakable, shimmered under the assault, then buckled, allowing a focused blast to sear across the command deck. "This is not possible," Zarthus shrieked, his voice a guttural cry of despair. "We are the Dominion, we are invincible." Lena Petrova watched the Xylosian flagship reel, her eyes fixed on the chaotic scene unfolding on their comms. They had proven their point. They had shattered the illusion of Xylosian invincibility, but the battle was not over. Zarthus, a being of unyielding pride, would not surrender easily. He would seek one final, desperate act of defiance. On the ground, General Cathar made his final desperate move. he activated a signal, a last resort protocol designed to collapse the entire sector's atmospheric processors, turning the frontier world into a lifeless rock. If he could not conquer it, he would ensure humanity could not possess it. Admiral Lyra Chen cried out, detecting the surge of energy from Zeta-3. Massive energy spike detected on the surface. A planetary collapse protocol has been initiated. Estimated atmospheric breakdown 5 minutes. Lena's eyes narrowed. They want to destroy the world rather than lose it. Vance, new priority. Get a shuttle to the surface immediately. Colonel Riley's forces need direct support. Find the source of that signal. This battle is about to become far more personal. Captain Kalen Vance nodded grimly, already moving to dispatch a rapid insertion team. The Xylosians had just upped the ante. They thought they could erase humanity's foothold. They were about to learn that humanity never abandoned its own, no matter what the odds. As the steadfast resolve continued its intricate dance of destruction around the flailing Xylosian fleet, a single, swift human shuttle detached and plunged through the burning atmosphere of Zeta-3, racing against the clock. On the ground, Sergeant Riley and his extreme environment adaptives faced the ultimate, desperate act of their enemy. Could they stop a planet's collapse while fending off an enraged alien general? The fate of millions and humanity's newfound supremacy now rested on a knife's edge. Is your heart pounding? Mine too. If you're on the edge of your seat, waiting to see how humanity pulls off this impossible save, then make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button. Did you know the Xylosian Dreadnought's planet-breaker weapon requires a stable gravitational field to maintain its destructive integrity? Perhaps that little fact will be very important for what comes next. Don't miss Part 4. The Xylosian Dreadnought's primary weapon, a contained star of pure annihilation, had been harmlessly diverted, a testament to humanity's impossible mastery over gravitational forces. But on the surface of frontier world Zeta-3, a new horror was unfolding. General Cathar, cornered and desperate, had initiated a planetary collapse protocol intending to render the world uninhabitable rather than allow it to fall into human hands. The atmosphere, once breathable, was beginning to thin, a sickening pressure drop signaling impending doom. 5 minutes. A sleek human shuttle, the Swiftwing, detached from the steadfast resolve with a flash of light plunging through the burning atmosphere. Inside, Captain Kalen Vance, leading a rapid insertion team, felt the violent turbulence. His comms crackled with Sergeant Riley's urgent report. Breaker to Swiftwing, we're seeing initial atmospheric bleed. Grav signatures from Cathar's command bunker are spiking. They're channeling power into the core processors. We estimate the primary initiation relay is somewhere within the central complex. Understood, Breaker, Vance replied, his voice calm amidst the chaos. We're on final approach. Maintain pressure on their ground forces. Pin them, don't let them reinforce. The Swiftwing slammed onto a ruined landing pad with a jarring impact, its ramp hissing down immediately. Vance and his squad, a blend of hardened special operators and advanced tech specialists, poured out, their suits glowing with active camouflage. The air was already thin, a biting chill penetrating their protective gear. Above them, the sky was a sickly orange, streaked with the trails of Xylosian vessels in full retreat, or worse, disintegrating under Lena Petrova's relentless assault. General Cathar's command bunker was a sprawling, subterranean complex, fortified by millennia of Xylosian engineering. His forces, though demoralized, were still formidable, fighting with the desperation of cornered creatures. Sergeant Riley's extreme environment adaptives, however, thrived in such conditions. They moved through the fractured city like a vengeful storm, exploiting every weakness, turning every shadow into an ambush. Corporal Anya Sharma, her face grim with purpose, led her squad through a collapsed subway tunnel, its air thick with dust and the metallic tang of ozone. The Xylosians expected frontal assaults, predictable flanks. They received a relentless, maddening campaign of vanishing attackers and precision strikes from impossible angles. Her team, using salvaged power cells and local detritus, rigged a series of thermal charges that blew out the support struts of a key Xylosian defense tower, sending it crashing down in a plume of dust and mangled metal. "This is our home," Anya whispered into her calm, a fierce light in her eyes, "and no one takes our home." Vance's team, guided by the tactical overlay from the steadfast resolve's HAC's core, moved with terrifying speed through the urban labyrinth. They were a surgical strike, designed to neutralize the core threat. The HAC's core, Dr. Thorne's masterwork, now fully integrated with every human combatant's suit, streamed real-time data, predicting Xylosian patrols, highlighting hidden weak points in their fortifications, and even calculating optimal breach locations. It was like fighting with a direct neural link to a galactic-scale supercomputer. A Xylosian heavy trooper platoon, moving with rigid precision down a broad avenue, suddenly found itself ensnared in a net of high-tensile carbon fiber wire, sprung from concealed anchors. Before they could react, Vance's team was on them, disabling their power packs with precision energy bursts, leaving them immobilized and helpless. This was not a fair fight. It was a demonstration of overwhelming tactical advantage. Meanwhile, in space, the battle raged, but the tide had irrevocably turned. Supreme Commander Zarthus's flagship was a burning wreck, its once-proud hull rent open, its powerful weapons silenced. Admiral Lena Petrova, from the bridge of the Steadfast Resolve, watched the Xylosian fleet disintegrate. Their discipline, once their greatest asset, was now their greatest liability. Unable to adapt, unable to improvise, they were shattered by humanity's fluid, unpredictable assault. "Sir," Lyra Chen reported, her voice ringing with satisfaction, "Xylosian Supreme Commander Zarthus's flagship is without power in the void. All internal comms silenced. We are detecting multiple escape pod launches fleeing the sector. Their command structure has utterly collapsed." Lena nodded, her gaze sweeping over the main view screen, which displayed the broken remnants of the Xylosian fleet. The dreadnoughts that had seemed invincible now drifted as silent tombs, their arrogance extinguished. This was the end of a millennia-long reign of fear. On Zeta 3, Vance's team breached the inner perimeter of Cathar's bunker. The Xylosian general, sensing his impending defeat, was personally overseeing the final activation of the atmospheric processors. His multifaceted eyes, usually cold and calculating, now burned with a desperate, destructive rage. "You cannot win," Cathar shrieked as Vance's team entered the core chamber, pulse rifles raised. "If I cannot have this world, no one shall. Its destruction will be a monument to Xylosian might." Vance ignored the tirade. He focused on the glowing console, the pulsing red indicators counting down to planetary collapse. Thorne's AI, integrated into Vance's wrist-mounted interface, immediately highlighted the core process conduits, the exact sequence needed to reverse the activation, and the weak points in the Xylosian energy channeling system. The Xylosian guards, elite and unyielding, moved to intercept Vance's team. They were faster, stronger, their armor seemingly impervious. But the human operators moved with a coordination that bordered on telepathy, each one a perfectly synchronized part of a larger, unseen machine. A tech specialist, guided by the AI, fired a focused energy disruptor, not at a guard, but at a conduit in the ceiling. The resulting overload created a localized energy surge that temporarily paralyzed the Xylosian defenders. In that critical window, Vance moved. He didn't engage Cathar directly. Instead, he slammed his hand onto the main console, and his suit's AI interface flowed into the Xylosian system. The HAC's core, having observed Xylosian technology for decades, found the backdoors, the redundancies, the hidden diagnostic ports. It was like a digital ghost, flowing through the alien network, bypassing every security measure. The countdown timer on the console flickered, then froze. The pulsing red lights turned green, then cycled through a diagnostic sequence. Cathar watched in stunned horror as his own system began to reverse its destructive process, the planetary collapse averted. "No," Cathar roared, launching himself at Vance. "This is impossible. You cannot bypass Xylosian security." Vance sidestepped the enraged general, his movements fluid. Corporal Anya Sharma, having led her ground team through a previously undetected maintenance shaft, emerged directly behind Cathar. She didn't fight him with brute force. Instead, she deployed a fast-acting neural disruptor, a device designed by Thorne to target specific Xylosian nerve clusters without causing permanent harm. Cathar stiffened, his multi-limbed body seizing, his eyes wide with a combination of fury and utter bewilderment. He collapsed, defeated but alive. On the main comms, Sergeant Riley's voice crackled, filled with relief. "Breaker to Swiftwing, atmospheric pressure is stabilizing. The collapse has been averted. What's your status?" Vance looked at the unconscious Cathar, then at his team already securing the bunker. "Status: mission accomplished, Sergeant. The frontier worlds are safe." The news of the Xylosian defeat, broadcast across the galaxy by a triumphant Ambassador T. Laura on the Galactic Concord Channel, sent shockwaves through every species. The unassailable Xylosian dominion, which had crushed empires and intimidated star nations for millennia, had been utterly vanquished by a species they had deemed primitive and inconsequential. High Chancellor Lyra of the Vesperian Enclave, her iridescent wings no longer trembling with fear but now shimmering with awe, addressed the stunned Concord delegates. The Terrans, they did not just win a battle, they redefined warfare. They showed us that true strength lies not in rigid power, but in adaptable ingenuity. A Centauri delegate, whose species had been among the first to advocate abandoning humanity, now approached Ambassador T. Laura with an expression of profound respect. "Ambassador," he began, his voice uncharacteristically humble, "we were mistaken. We judge your species by conventional metrics. We failed to comprehend the depth of your potential." T. Laura met his gaze, her expression unreadable. "Humanity," she stated, "does not seek to conquer or dominate. We fight for freedom, for the right to exist, and for the right of all species to determine their own destiny." This was the core message. Humanity, with its overwhelming victory, had not become the new galactic overlords. Instead, they offered an alternative. Admiral Lena Petrova, from the Steadfast Resolve, broadcast a galaxy-wide message of peace, a commitment to rebuilding, and an invitation to a new era of cooperation. "We have demonstrated our resolve," Lena's voice echoed across the stars, firm yet devoid of malice. "We do not seek vengeance. We seek a future where no species lives under the shadow of fear, where conflict is replaced by collaboration, and where all can thrive. The Xylosian dominion has fallen. Let us build a new galactic concord, one founded on mutual respect and shared prosperity." And so, the vast Xylosian Empire, built on a foundation of rigid military doctrine and intimidation, began to unravel. Their remaining fleets, demoralized and leaderless, either surrendered unconditionally or fled to the deepest, darkest reaches of the void. Oppressed species, emboldened by humanity's triumph, rose up against their Xylosian occupiers. The galaxy, having lived in fear for ages, was finally beginning to breathe freely. On the frontier world Zeta 3, the immediate aftermath of the battle was a testament to humanity's unique approach to victory. Human medics, alongside emergency teams from the newly formed Concord aid agencies, treated wounded Xylosian soldiers with the same care they afforded their own. Human engineers began the complex task of repairing the planetary atmospheric processors, working side by side with bewildered Xylosian technicians. Sergeant Jacksbreaker Riley stood surveying the vast medical bays, where Xylosian and human wounded lay recuperating together. He approached General Cathar, now conscious and under guard, though receiving the best available medical attention. "I don't understand," Cathar rasped, his multifaceted eyes fixed on Riley. "You defeated us. You could have eliminated us. Why the compassion?" Riley, his face etched with the weariness of battle, but his eyes clear, simply replied, "Because that's what we do. We fight to win, and then we rebuild. We learn. We are moving forward. We don't hold grudges against the defeated. We offer a path to a better future." Cathar had no answer for such an alien concept. His civilization knew only conquest or utter annihilation. This humanity was a variable no Xylosian equation could solve. Months later, the galaxy was transformed. The old galactic concord, once paralyzed by fear, was reformed into the Galactic Alliance, with humanity as a leading, respected member. Species long oppressed by the Xylosians emerged, eager to join an alliance that valued freedom and cooperation. Humanity shared its advanced technologies, its medical breakthroughs, its sustainable energy solutions, all lessons learned from its own harsh journey on a challenging world. The Hax Core, now adapted for peaceful applications, has become a tool for galactic logistics and environmental restoration. Dr. Thorne, once a recluse, found himself a celebrated figure, his genius now serving the collective good. Admiral Lena Petrova, Captain Kalen Vance, Sergeant Jacksbreaker Riley, Corporal Anya Sharma, their names became legendary throughout the nascent alliance. They had not merely won a war, they had shattered an ancient paradigm. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. They had seen a young species burdened by internal conflicts and lacking overt displays of power. They had seen apparent chaos and dismissed it as weakness. But they had failed to grasp the enduring spirit of a species forged in the fires of adversity. A species that turned every impossible challenge into an opportunity for growth. Humanity, the ultimate extreme environment adaptives, had not just defeated a galactic empire. They had illuminated a new path for the stars. They had proven that the true measure of military supremacy was not just the capacity to inflict destruction, but the ingenuity to overcome any obstacle, the adaptability to confront any challenge, and the unwavering spirit to defend what they valued, not with rigid adherence to doctrine, but with the boundless, beautiful, unpredictable power of the human mind. The galaxy, once frozen in fear, now looked to the future with newfound hope, led by the species that had proven, beyond any doubt, that sometimes the greatest strength lies in the refusal to ever give up. Humanity, heck yeah. And that brings us to the epic conclusion of the moment humans proved their military supremacy. If you were on the edge of your seat, thrilled by humanity's triumph, please give this video a huge like. Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling HFY stories, and tell us in the comments below. What was your favorite moment from this entire series, and what kind of challenges do you think humanity will face next in the new Galactic Alliance? We love hearing from you.